What's up, dude? Noel. Hey,
What?
what's up? Ah, what's up, dog? How you doing? Share with everybody what it took for you to get where you're at, and what inspires you today to keep moving. You know, what motivates you.
The money. No, I'm kidding.
But
I'll break down the whole story right now. I'll tell you what's up.
Where?
Now, what happened was I actually have a weird story because what makes my story different is that I actually lived a good life all the way up to the age of 13 years old. I was living in a middle class family. I had everything a kid could want, you know what I'm saying? I had a bedroom, I had clothes, I had toys, the whole deal. Like everything was straight, you know what I'm saying? And my mom and my dad actually, they came down here. My mom's Puerto Rican Mexican. My dad is full Italian, 100% Italian, not mixed with anything. They're the only two from their family that came down here to California to start a life, to start a living and so forth. So they came down here not knowing anybody. They had no family out here, no nothing. All their families like Puerto Rico, Mexico, France, Italy, Corsica, all out that way. They came to California not knowing anybody, just started from scratch, right?
Oh, yeah.
So my mom was on the struggle, you know, this and that, whatever. I was a young age when I came out here. I was 2 years old. So I remember growing up in a middle-class home, middle-class family, had everything I could want. And my dad, my mom's job was just, she was a house cleaning lady at the time. And her job was basically just a housewife, you know, just wash the dishes, have dinner ready when dad comes home, take care of the house, take care of me. And she had the simple, you know, just the house mom, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My dad was the breadwinner. He was the one, you know, paying and cutting the bills and doing all that, whatever. Anyways, cut a long story short, though, my dad lived a miserable life, though. My dad's life was, he was a construction worker, and my dad was basically just work, go home, and watch television.
Right.
Work, go home, and watch television. Work, go home, and watch television. That was it. Just a miserable life. His hobby was scuba diving. He was a fisherman.
Is that right?
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
I grew up in Orange County, you know, so that's another twist to my story. A lot of people think I'm from LA. I grew up in OC. And what happened anyways out there was, but it was funny too, like a funny story real quick is a family member from my mom's side knew someone out here in California.
Right.
And originally when my parents came out here to live, the first place that they went to try to start a living was Compton. And it was funny
man,
though, is
Compton.
because that was the place that they always heard about on the news. But they had no idea that they kept on hearing about it because of all the crime and all the
Yeah.
activity that was taking place back then. So it was always a trip, you know, that they always, you know, heard about that place on the news. And then they came there trying to start a life. So it was funny. My mom called up her friend that was through a family member. Was like, yeah, we're in Compton. You know, where do we get a place? Blah, blah, blah. She said, what are you doing in Compton? And she lived in Orange County. So that's how they floated over to Orange County. Like, get away from LA, and floated over Orange County and so forth. So that was just kind of a little funny
How old
story,
were
you know.
at the time?
I don't know. I was young. It was a story that my mom told me that
Okay.
I'm relaying,
Right.
you know, out there. And so, anyways, to cut it short, what ended up happening was my dad had a best friend out of Newport Beach who was a millionaire. Guy was just loaded, disgusting, you know. And he had a yacht. So he asked my dad one day to go on a fishing trip around the world, sail around the world with him on his yacht. But he told him straight out he can't bring no kids with him.
Oh.
So one day out of nowhere, and I'm just cutting a lot of shortcuts, one day out of nowhere, my dad came out of nowhere and just said, I'm going. I'm packing up the shit. I'm selling the house. I'm leaving. He told my mom, you can go, you could stay, whatever. He wasn't going to bring me. Within 1 week's time, I went from having a 3-bedroom house, middle class. I went from having my room and all. I went from having all that to nothing but the clothes on my back. That was it. I was homeless. My parents took off. I don't blame my mom for the fact that, you know, if she would have stayed there at the time, I was 13 years old when this happened. If she would have stayed there at the time, there would have been 2 homeless people instead of 1. I gave the impression to my mom that I actually had a place to go live with somebody else, that I had somewhere else to live or whatever. So my mom, she took off and she went, and now my mom came back into my life when I was like 18, 19 years old, and cut it short, man, it's just, now she's my best friend, you know, but back then I don't blame her because she had no money at the time and it would have been just way too hard. I was 13, I could already think like, hey, I'm a big man, I could take care of myself, whatever, whatever. So I went from having all that to being homeless, and I was actually homeless for 2 years. And that's how the gangbanging got started. That's how I started all my crime life. You know, I used to sleep in cars, donut stores. I used to sleep on the beach, friends' houses. I did the couch tour. I used to sleep everywhere and anywhere. I just used to fuck it. And and I was 2 years running around. I had a spot here and there, off and on, and then sometimes I didn't have a place to sleep. I'd walk around all night, not knowing where to go or what to do. So then to cut it short, what happened was I met this girl one day when I was 15 years old, and she used to ask me, she said, why you always wear the same clothes? Why you always like sport the same shit? Like what's up with that? And one day I just broke down. I started crying. I told her straight out, I said, look, my parents left me. I ain't got nowhere to go, nowhere to live. I go, this is it. Her dad was a Christian pastor for a church. So he came out, talked to me. He took me in as a family member. Next thing you know, I'm living with this family. And because her dad was a Christian pastor who passed away, rest in peace, he was like my stepfather to me. He took me in as a family member and let me live with the family. So I was so happy to have a roof over my head and so happy to be in a house again that I used to do whatever the girl says. I was literally like her slave or whatever, because I always thought that if I got her mad, that I'd be kicked out of the house again and back on the street. So I pretty much just did whatever this girl said, you know what I'm saying? So this is how the acting got started, to jump into that now. The way the acting got started was one day she asked me to go to an acting class with her. And I'd never been interested in acting a day in my life, never thought about it a day in my life, nothing. So one day she asked me to go to an acting class with her. I went to this acting class with her, and I don't know if you've ever been to one, but they tell you stupid ass shit like picture you're in a jungle, or like close your eyes and reach for the stars. And I'm sitting there like, what the? So I started cracking jokes. I started cracking jokes and being funny and the whole deal. And what ended up happening was there was a producer who was sitting in class who was scouting out talent at the time. First time ever in an acting class, just right place, right time. It was like a calling from Jesus, thank you. And it was just funny. He comes up to me after the class, he says, you want to be in a Taco Bell commercial? I said, oh, because I'm Mexican, huh? Nah, I'm playing. So the first thing I ever did in my life was a Taco Bell commercial for the Superfish tacos. I thought it was all bullshit at the time. I gave him my information, whatever, ended up being real. He called me, I'm doing a commercial, right? So anyways, I'm doing this commercial, and a lot of people out there don't know this, but like the way you get paid for a commercial, and it's a trip, is like the way you get paid is every time they show the commercial again, you get another check. And I didn't know that at the time. I swear to God, like every time I went to cash a check at the bank, I honestly thought I was breaking the law. So I called up the producer guy and I said, how do I get started as being an actor if this is how you get paid? Because I said, what's up? I kept on getting checks. I don't understand why, blah, blah, blah. He explained it to me, broke it down. I said, well, fuck. So long story short, he hooked me up with an agent in Orange County, and that's where I first acted for the first 4 years of my career. And what I did was, they're called industrials. I did all like, if you get hired for Taco Bell, or you get hired for Carl's Jr., or you get hired for Walmart, I was like in all the training videos you see at the orientation, like this is how you work the cash register. This is how you wrap a hamburger. I was like, did all that shit. But it was funny because every time I went to the audition, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I went in there and I was always just like a G. I'd come in with the homeboys. I was like in and out. I'd tell the casting director, I'm like, what's up? What do I do? They're like, you got to read that paper out. I'm like, nah. You called me. What do I do? She'd tell me what's up. She's like, act like you're on a cash register at McDonald's. I'm like, shit, I eat there every day. That's easy. So they were laughing and joking and shit. Next thing you know, I'm doing this. And back then, when you do an industrial, you're getting paid $750 a day to do an industrial. To me, back then, that was a lot of money on top of my crime money. You know what I'm saying? And so I did that for the first 4 years of my career. And one day, my agent calls me up, and she goes, you know what? They keep on calling you for these videos and stuff. They keep on calling you to be in these videos. Why don't you go to L.A. and try to be in movies and television shows and take this seriously as a career? She goes, I know some managers out there. I'm going to hook you. She hooked me up. I ended up meeting some managers. Next thing you know, I'm doing acting. I'm doing movies, TV shows. I'm tripping out on this lifestyle. So every moment I'm fond of, because it's a blessing to be working. There's a lot of actors out there who aren't working. It's a struggle. It's not an overnight thing. I'll let you know that right now too as well. It took me 8 years. I want everybody to know that. It did not just happen from here to here and boom, I was there. It took me 8 years to get my first movie. And even after my first movie that didn't even go to theater, and it was a strong movie with Danny Trejo and Ice-T, it didn't even go to theater. Right after that movie, my first movie that went to theater was like 11 years. It took me 11 years to get my first movie in theater. Wow. And that was Animal with Rob Schneider. And it's a tough business. If you can't handle rejection, which you get a lot of in this business, it's something that you really, really need to be. If you can't handle rejection, this is not the business for you. You know, because just because you get rejected, it doesn't necessarily mean that Hollywood doesn't want you. You just weren't right for that certain project. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. The final chapter for me, man, is hopefully I continue on in this acting business. Hopefully it progresses. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully I get that starring role. That's what I'm trying to get. You
Or
know, I
that
want
star on Hollywood.
or whatever. Yeah, dog, put my name on one of them stars. Hollywood's overdue. You know what I'm saying? Hollywood. Do something. You know what I'm saying? There's a couple blank ones out there. I seen them. Yeah, I'm just hoping that, it's not even being a star, man, to be real with you. It's being a working actor is blessing enough. You know what I'm saying? As long as I'm able to continue working and be on films here and there and make a living out of it like I'm doing, that's enough. Making a living out of doing something you love is more love than love itself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's a blessing itself, man. So it'd be real cool just to be able to be a working actor, and I'm happy with just that alone. You know, if the stars and the glamour and the millions come with it later, so be it. I ain't gonna say no. I ain't stupid either. You know what I mean? But just to be a working actor is cool right now. If all the other stuff comes with it later, then I'm not arguing. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with that too. Say, like, for all them young people out there, like, on the real, like, see, I had an understanding too. When we go to high school, sometimes we talk, and one thing that we bring up is, here's the thing, and I understand. See, I'm not one of them cats who hasn't been there and is telling you don't do it. I've been there and I know what's up. You know what I'm saying? I'm not like, like sometimes you're in a classroom and you have like a fireman or a firefighter come up to your class and tell you don't be a gangster, and you're like, man, shut the fuck. You ain't never lived this life. Or you just by looking at him, you assume that he's never lived this life, and you want to hear it from someone who's lived it and been through it. And one thing I say is, like, just being a gangster is not worth it, man. It's not worth it. You got homies in jail. You talk to any older homie who's in jail, it's just a rough ride in there. And being a gangster and a thug, I know it looks cool, sounds cool, but no, it's not. It's not. We even have a documentary that I want to give to you if you could edit it in the middle of this, called The Way Out. I want to give you that documentary so you can see what I'm talking about. And I put it together with other people who were gang members from the streets and now are actors. And we have a documentary called The Way Out, just meaning a way out of gangs, from street mentors who've been there, lived the life. And, gangbang is not worth it, dog. It's not worth it, basically I'm just trying to say, do not live the street life, because in the end, if you end up dead or in prison, it's not worth it. It's...
There it is right there, my man.
That's what's up. Now give me the camera, dog. What's up? What's up?
Hey, Noel, thank you, brother.
Yeah, dog. Cool, man. All love.
All right.